So we're up to page 233 if you have those pages. Did we start the design already?
Just a few words.
Few words, okay. So the flow is that the kavana is tachlis kavana. Official, you here? You're here. All right. Is that there should be both sugim, both categories of Nisim should not be separate. Not two separate worlds, Hemek She'ela or Hagbe L'mayla. But rather, the Hemek She'ela should be drawn, in the Hemek She'ela should be drawn the Hagbe L'mayla. And then he added in the previous ois that even in this level of the depth of the depth, Be'emes is already merumbas, there's a very lofty level, a very lofty source. As the Rameh says that it's Meloshen HaMika de Bira, which means the depth of the boyer, of the pit or the well, which means that the koyach to descend all the way down comes from a very high source. Abba Yosad Brata and Ema Uzifas Mana Bratim, what that means. You wrote the translation. Is lent. Zivas means lent. Mana means is a garment. The brata to the daughter. So Bina lends the garments to the daughter. Where does Machshava Dibur Maisa, these lowest manifestations of Malchus, come from? Comes from Bina, as we explained in the previous year. So this is all to say that Adarab, the very lowest manifestation, actually is rooted in the higher place. And then he went on to say that it's even Ad Kadikach, that the nest that's Melubash in Teva, which is the Hemek She'ela, which is the Shem Shin Daled Yud, that really comes from a higher place than Hag B'Lamayla, than the open miracle. Right, as we explained in the previous year on Friday at length. And that's hinted to also in the story here, as we just reviewing what we learned on Friday. That in the story, on the one hand, it's the most natural sign that Yeshaya is giving achaz, that this young woman will give birth to a child, and before it gets old enough, whatever it is, I think the distinction between right and wrong, so you'll be relieved from your those who are plotting against you, as we explained the whole story. So it's a very natural miracle. She's pregnant, she's going to give birth. But the end was, he was given all of these names, and in his names are all allusions to Mashiach, no less. So in nature itself, this is pointing to, on the contrary, nature is invested even a higher level, a more essential level than Nisim, classic Nisim, and hence the fusion. Now Navoida. So this was a summary of Friday, Thursday and Friday. To understand this in Avedis Adam, you're going to be understanding what is buried in my mission. As we learned in the mind previously, so there we explain Sheklolis in Avedis Tarechli is Bakadomis in Mesiris Nefesh. Azoish Tzurim is the Shadish of the Midas, that's Mesiris Nefesh. Meroish Tzurim. Next page. Rebbe Rashab would say, Mesiris Nefesh, or what's Mesiris Nefesh? It's like this and not otherwise. This is an enduring resolution, the achletis, an absolute, and stands firmly forever. Not just contextually true, but essentially true. And this is all expressed in the middle kav, as we've been explaining throughout this maamar and the previous one. The dafka, the middle kav, draws on the pnimius hakesed. And what does it mean in avodah? It means serving the Eibishter with the pnimius of the nefesh. That's the foundation. That's the Rosh Surim. But we explained at length in the previous Maimer. But after this foundation, there has to be this orderly avodah. With the conscious faculties. That is from the hills I see him. And Asherenu, as we explained in the previous Maimer, in contrast to Arenu, Asherenu means looking carefully and closely with intent and focus. In an orderly way, coming all the way down to action. The main thing is action. So it's through this avodah Nosing in the Ashurenu. So he's saying now the result of that avodah is the avodah of what? The avodah of bringing the Mesiras Nefesh down to the particulars of life, close to consciousness. So this brings him close to God. Hashem Mikodov, he sees, and it's a close seeing, as opposed to Arenu, which we explained means from the distance. But this is close, intimate. So likewise, Mashiach's revelation that comes as a result of our general avodah. Now he spoke individually. So likewise, through the general avodah of Yidden, it follows the same model. It says about Mashiach as follows: in the Hine Yaskel Avdi, behold, my servant, be very wise. Yoram v'nosa, Yoram elevated, high, Yoram high, v'nosa and elevated, v'gova ma'od and very high. So there's 5 descriptions here. Avdi, Yoram, Nosa, Gova, ma'od. So it's explained in Chassidus, the Koyal Chomesh Aliyah Shebesfiras HaMalchus. It refers to the 5 elevations in Sfiras HaMalchus. And this could be associated with the 5. For sure it's associated with the 5 levels of the neshama. But it may be also connected to the 5 organs of speech, which is what Malchus is, right? Malchus is speech. So there are 5 specific organs of speech: the palate, the tongue, etc. But Adluk, that's the shorish of it, maybe as it comes down in Malchus, but it's definitely the 5 levels, as explained by Chalal Chassidus, are the 5 levels of the neshama of Klal Yisrael, right? There's the 5 levels of each individual neshama, and the 5 levels of the spanning of all the generations of Klal Yisrael. So Mashiach is the 5th level, Ad L'Gova Ma'od, to the final description, which is exceedingly high, Ma'od, exceedingly. Shezel L'Mayli B'chinas Hag B'L'Mayli, as we said before in the previous paragraph, that this is higher even than level that Yeshaya refers to this, Hag B'L'Mayli, the Nisim that are higher than Teva. Ma'od goes on the essential level, the Kavim Tzoi, that's higher even than classic Oir. It's Oir and it's Keli, and this is higher than both. Nisim come from Oir and then Teva from Keli. That's the 2, Hag B'L'Mayli or Hemek She'ela. So Mashiach is the avodah of Ma'od, which is higher than both, which is manifested, he said, Dafke in nature, or is expressed in nature. So what's he, now he's explaining the word Ma'od. So even though the word Ma'od makes up the words Adam, and Adam means a person, Adam refers to the 10 spheres, which means limitation. He says, no. How does it betzid of the Ma'od? Nonetheless, how does it appear here? The letters are rearranged. The letters are arranged not as Adam, but Ma'od exceedingly, which means that this level of exceedingly is drawn into Adam, drawn into the structure. Therefore, Mashiach is even higher than Adam, the first Adam. He is not Adam, but within Adam, Ma'od. And he's the level of Yichid, as we learned in Yonah Shateres Achsidus a couple of years back now, I don't remember when it was, and we've made reference to this frequently in the Maimarim, just to remind you that the 5 general levels of the neshama correspond to 5 neshama kloliyos throughout the generations. Each one embodied another level. So Adam embodied chaya. Right? So we're going from the top down. Yechida, chaya. Below chaya is what? Neshama, it's Moishe Rabbeinu. Mashiach, he just said no. Mashiach is Yechida. He's Ma'id. Adam is Adam Aleph Dalet Man. He's a perfect man, as it were. But Ma'id, that's Mashiach. So Yechida is Mashiach. Adam is Chaya. Moishe Rabbeinu was Neshama. Then comes what? Which is Keneged Olam Abriya. Then there's Ruach, Eliyahu Novi, and Nefesh, David HaMelech. We explained at the time then the connection between all of these levels. Just briefly, the thinking of Adam. I didn't see this anywhere. I'm just suggesting. I'm sure it has an explanation more to be found in the sources. But anyway, the thinking of Adam is Chaya, Chaya is Ratzon. And Adam is like the child, the infant of humanity. So what do you see in a child? You see the inyan of will. I want, it's pure, I want to live. It's pure, I want. I want to be changed, I want to drink, I want to eat, whatever. It's pure Ratzon. Moishe Rabbeinu is Neshama, because Neshama is where Seichel is revealed. He's the teacher. Eliyahu Novi is Ruach, that's the Ikar of Ruach, is Midas. Eliyahu Novi lived during this tumultuous time. There's all very emotional challenges to the Yidden at the time. How much longer will you waver between the two sides? And he was answered only Tfilis HaMincha. Mincha is the Midas. Shachris is the time of his bonus and seichel, but Mincha is the avoid of the essential Midas. So that's Eliyahu Novi, and David HaMelech is Malchus, Nefesh, governance, Pel Mamash. At any rate, so Mashiach is what? The union of Ma'oid. Mashiach is the union of Yechida. Huh? I'm sorry? Yechida, yeah, so the 5th level, the essential level of the Neshama. Nonetheless, it doesn't just describe him as Ma'id, there's 4 other descriptions. Right? But hina Yaskil, Avdi, first there's Seichel, and all of the other descriptions. Shemagim, Lazed Dafke. Oh no, the diak now is the word Avdi. Sorry. The diak now is he's my servant. Notwithstanding this lofty level of the Neshama, he's what's called the Yechida Klolis, the general, essential Yechida of Klal Yisrael and Meshach, all Neshamas of all time. And yet he's described as my servant. It's got to come down. He actually not just come down, he says the other way, that one reaches this through the Avodah of Eved. So we see that Yaakov's thinking of Eved, because Yaakov is the Kavem Tzoi, which is what reaches the essence. And Yaakov is described as a servant. It's similar to what we're saying now, that the whole Avodah has to be manifest in Mikvois Hashem, the Avodah of the mothers, which is in the intimate engagement of the details of life. Okay, so in general, it matches up. Avdi, bringing it down in Pel Mamish. My servant. Pardon? Yeah. That's what he's saying. The only way to reach the Yechida is through the Pel Mamish. In the Yaskil Avdi, the description of Mashiach is Avdi, my servant, hinting to that this whole Avodah is it's like 2 ways here. A, we access the Yechida through Pel Mamish, and we have to be mamshich the Yechida into Pel Mamish. That doesn't elaborate. Because till now we're speaking about the other way, just being mamshich, starting with voice Hashem, with this. You start with Mesiras Nefesh, with this achlata, now bring it down all the way down into Mikvois Hashem. Now we're saying, which is explained elsewhere, that it is the Avodah of Avdi that actually unlocks the Yechida shebenefesh. The Gili again. Yeah, but it seems also that I mean, this. It sounded just. Let's translate this in simple language. The Bereshab said, "What's Mesiras Nefesh?" Azoy nicht anders. So where does it start? It starts in Pel Mamish. It starts with Iskafia, Kabbalah Soil, and that is a Yechida stance. But then that has to permeate Seichel and Midas, all the levels of consciousness. That's Mikvois Hasherenu. It's not only Ma'aseh B'Peil, it's everything till there. It's all the levels of mind and heart and so on. So it starts with Kabbalah's oil and ends with Kabbalah's oil, Ma'aseh B'Peil. Kind of both. Yeah? We're now up by the number just below 92. Because this is also the precision of the pasuk which we brought earlier. That Magid Varav Yaakov, Hashem relates his words to Yaakov, Chukov Mishpat of Israel, his statutes and laws to Israel. We said before in the chapter 2, that this whole Avodah is drawn down after through Yaakov and Israel, which is the middle. The Avodah of the middle, the Id of Reshuyas, the mixing, right, of the two domains. Not stuck on one kind of Avodah, because it talks to me. Not this one, not that one. Transcends both. What the Eibishter wants, that's what's done. Self-transcendence, so this is Kavem Tzoi. This is critical to this whole Avodah. Now here, Shagam Bazeh Ko Yaakov Dafke. So the pasuk says again, Magid Varav Yaakov. They was focusing on Kabbalah soil, how it all begins, the foundation of it all. Magid Varav Yaakov. In brackets, he says, true. Does remain only a Kabbalah soil. That's the whole point. They should permeate Seichel and Midas Yisrael. With the name Yisrael refers to already the mind and the heart, a rich experience, but it begins with Magid Varav Yaakov. Showing an Aved, this Eved, the Aved of the Eved. He's stressing here that the foundation and the end result, the start and the beginning, is Eved and Ma'aseh B'Peil. Likewise, the pasuk it talks about the revelation of Mashiach in the world. What does the pasuk say? I see him and not now. Asherena, behold him, when he's not near. And then he goes on to say, Dorach koichav mi Yaakov, a star will shoot out from Yaakov, become Shevet Yisrael, and a ruler, a leader will arise from Yisrael. Here too again, he's describing Mashiach as Yaakov first and foremost. Yavshas, of course, and the same thing is like the pasuk Magid Varav of the Yaakov, which is referring to the avodah of each one of us. So this is reflected in the result in Mashiach. The Yavshas, of course, of Yev come Shevet Yisrael, even though the end is this leader arises and he refers to him as Yisrael. Mishakosov HaTargum, as the Targum says, V'Yisrab and Mashiach B'Yisrael, and Mashiach will be great. Mashiach will be great in Israel, amongst Eden in the world. And he has in brackets only Eden. Yeah, the whole world will be on the level of Israel. It's an interesting statement. At any rate, how he calls it, Nasa the Akdama singing the Dorach Koichav min Yaakov Dafke. How is Mashiach, who at the end emerges as the great leader, an exalted leader, and it all begins with a star shoots out of Yaakov. Shazering and Avodah, the Eved, referring to the Avodah of the simple servant, as the pasuk said, quoted earlier, Yaakov Avdi, Yaakov my servant, and the pasuk, the other pasuk, and Yaskel Avdi, behold, my servant will be very wise, but he's described as an Eved. And likewise, every day in Golus, every day, every day we have to go out of our own Golus. Every day we have to experience Mashiach. Every day we have to experience a personal redemption. And since the final redemption is similar to the going out of Mitzrayim, how they moving, it's understood that when we say that every day you've got to go out of Mitzrayim, we mean the final redemption, the personal geula. That's what it means, because the final redemption is described as going out of Mitzrayim. It's one long process. So he says, every day has to be the inyan of Mashiach's coming in one's personal avodah, namely, that every day he has the avodah, the achlata of Meresh Sudim, the Kabbalah Soil, the Eved. Every day begins with the Meda'ani and then the Shema Yisrael. Shina Mesiris Nefesh. It all begins with the declaration of his willingness to give up his very life. And that's Avdi. And then it filters, or it's revealed in all of the levels. From the hills I behold him. Shin Avedis Masuderes Dafka brought down in an orderly Aveda in Seichel and in Midas, all the way down to Maisa B'Pearl. It's quite fascinating. This is not only every day you have to experience Yitzias Mitzrayim. What does that mean every day Yitzias Mitzrayim? That's Mashiach. This is Tafshich 1960. Every day, certainly, at the end of the 90s, the end of Tafshinun and going further, that was all that Rabbi spoke about. Open your eyes and live in Mashiach Dika life now. The Rebbe sets the seeds for that at this Fabrengen in Gan Yisrael in 1960, which he sent everybody the beautiful footage of that visit. We see that Fabrengen. You see parts of it. But they didn't film the whole thing. It's 1960. And I have to tell you, in those days, why do you film something? So one day you look back, and it was looking back. Every day was a new, Yeah, a little bit we're thankful for. So later everything was filmed later because it'd be seen like right away by everybody. This is someone's private camera. Yeah. So thank God somebody did. It's quite beautiful. Concluding the Maimon now, h'tש. So through the Avodah of Rosh Sudim, which is Mesiris Nefesh, which is bringing it down into the details of life and all the components of the Nefesh, we affect Gila Mashiach. So this brings about the Giloi, the revelation of Mashiach Dorach of Miyakov, Vakom Shevet Yisrael, Ba'oif and Aren of Ashureno, in a way that we will see it and behold it. So you're saying that even then will be these two, Makif and Pnimi, Aren of Ashureno, will even be then after Mashiach's revelation. Yeah, the point is, it permeates all of the levels. It don't disappear. Even though then, when this nevuah was said, what was said, Areno, you see, not now. Behold, it's not near. That was then. This is all after the whole Avodah of Yidden till then, and thousands of years. Now it is Now it is near. And especially in addition to all of the avodah that was done by Yidden throughout the generations, we had also the union of Nisim, of miracles. Let's go further, see what he wants to say. L'chori is saying that we have this avodah of the two sugim of Nisim. And hence their fusion, or maybe it means something else, I don't know. But anyway, we had Nisim, Yad la'oisis and b'oisim shohay b'nizman ishal chak mare v'chame yad mur nesidereinu. The signs and the wonders that were in the time of the Fidik Rebbe, K'mavu Betanya, like the Rebbe says in Tanya, Pirush Maimon Azal, explaining what it says in Medrash Rashi brings it. In Chumash, the outset, God, it arose in God's thought to create the world only with a mid of din. He saw the world could not endure if it were he just governed it through the attribute of justice. So Shitif so he fused with it and partnered with it the mid of Rachamim. Says the Alter Rebbe in Tanya in Shara Yichud, that Inyan is Galas Alikus Ali Tzaddik. What is this Midas Rachamim? He says this is the revelation of godliness to the tzaddikim, and the signs and the wonders that are recorded in Torah, the miracles. So we are witness to this throughout the Golos, but not so much in the last 2,000 years as in the last period of Golos, starting with the Moshe and then the Fidik Rebbe. And so it was also, by the Rebbe we saw it also, but the emphasis in the early years, by all the Rabbeim was like this apparently. By all the Rabbeim in the early years was a lot of Nisim. Just to make it easier for people to make the transition. We're impressed with these things. And we need them, we want them. In the early years. Yeah. Yeah, it didn't stop, but there was a flurry in the beginning of opening Yonim. Not that they stopped necessarily. In a way, we became more filtered in Teva a little bit later. Not always. Atzas Yedidim and see the dog. But there was very often just ignoring the whole Teva and Bimbam. On the other hand, then Nisim became, even greater later. That was 67, the Nevuah, saving Klal Yisrael from the Persian Gulf War, in a way greater. As it goes in the second of Yedavshan, Nisim Teva, even though the miracles were in nature, become Malkum Arizaba'if and Shirok Alaf Siyodet, that even the nations of the world could see, Shazayin Shulamayim Teva Lagamri. That's completely higher than nature. And like the Fidik Rebbe said, Bala Simcha, who we're celebrating now, this was Behemshech to Yud Tammuz, this is the 15th of Tammuz. He said about his whole miracle, this is the saving of Torah. Yiddishkeit was saved, right, in the story of Yud Tammuz. It's higher than Simchas Torah, the joy of Torah. And it's higher than the joy of scholars, because they were saving the Torah, not celebrating the Torah. So when it comes to celebrating Torah, not everybody is equal. Not everybody even knows what Torah is. And the one who knows more, his simcha is greater. But saving Torah, everybody is equal. And to save Torah was required Mesiras Nefesh. Shielim without Torah, the leip shadows. Torah had to be learned then without compromise. Talking about that was then in Soviet Russia. Given Shalim, but maybe the Moishe, since the whole purpose of learning is action, so the Chadorim and so on was all with a great sacrifice. And Nasagam Kima mitzvahs leip shadows. So it wasn't just the learning. The mitzvahs were also done without compromise. Azoy nit anders, as the Rebbe Rashab said. So and not otherwise. And this is what we say at the whole Maimon begins. Boruch, שעשה, נסים, blessed be you did miracles our forefathers in those days at this time. I know it's a request. We're asking that likewise it should be today as well. The Rebbe is not elaborating, but it seems he's alluding to like he says in the h'tsh, that the Mesiras Nefesh that they had then should be Bizman Hazeh. Moreover, the Kivin Shnitays of Avodah Bintayim, since Yud Beis Tmuz, there's been Avodah, more Avodah was done. Years away from Naili Yos, it's even higher. What's higher? This, which explained the Baruch Shasa Nisim, that the miracles become one. She Yidov shall call Sugya Nisim, that all the categories of miracles should be one. That we all become oneness and one category. What's that? Eibishter. Even though it was in nature, referring to the miracle of the what happens in nature is the greatest achievement, that Torah itself is saved. Shalamaydim is Simchas Torah, Simchas B'nai Torah, as the Fidik Rebbe said, higher than the celebration of Torah and the celebration of B'nai Torah. That we awaken and we draw down Mesiras Nefesh B'Poyah. Yeah, clearly that we should have this devotion now, like it was then. He's referring to the Fidik Rebbe that he was ma'ir mamshich in Mesiras Nefesh B'Poyah k'vi b'yamim hahem, as it was then. He's going back between then and now. So therefore, he's talking about now. He's talking about the figure about being now. As it was then in Soviet Russia. Yeah, he's speaking to the Rebbe as Rebbe, yeah, in the present. So he's mamshichet now, b'meila pol al kol eichem b'kvoisav. Therefore he affects all those who goes in his ways. And all that are connected to him, amongst all Yidden. What is he being pale now? That the Avodah should be without compromise. So and no and not otherwise. And this affects through this. That now v'kardav and very nearly this prophecy of the star who should fall from Yaakov and a Yaskel Avdi, my servant will be very great. And then Mashiach emerges as the great ruler. Ad v'gova ma'od, exceedingly high. We said ma'od is even higher than Adam Rishon. Yechida Klolis, Bebias Malka Mashiach, the coming of King Mashiach, Magolat done in our time, Mat Masara Tvachim, all the way down into this very world below 10 handbreadths. Okay, tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, we'll give an overview of the Maimar, and then we'll continue tomorrow or the next day.